Right, welcome back. We are ACI 10, Class 10, October 2nd, 2025. Let's gather our minds here as we usually do. Please bring your attention to your breath until you hear from me again. Now bring to mind that being who for you is a manifestation of ultimate love, ultimate compassion, ultimate wisdom. And see them there with you, gazing at you with their unconditional love for you, smiling at you with their holy great compassion, their wisdom radiating from them, that beautiful golden glow encompassing you in its light. And then we hear them say, bring to mind someone you know who's hurting in some way. Feel how much you would like to be able to help them. Recognize how the worldly ways we try fall short. How wonderful it will be when we can also help them in some deep and ultimate way, a way through which they will go on to stop their distress forever. Deep down, we know this is possible. Studying karma and emptiness, we glimpse how it's possible. And so we grow our wish into an intention. And with that intention, we turn our mind back to our precious holy guide. We know that they know what we need to know, what we need to learn yet, what we need to do yet, to become one who can help this other in this deep and ultimate way. And so we ask them, please teach me that. Show me that. And they are so happy that we've asked. Of course, they agree. Our gratitude arises. We want to offer them something exquisite. And so we think of the perfect world they are teaching us how to create. We imagine we can hold it in our hands, and we offer it to them, following it with our promise to practice what they teach us, using our refuge prayer to make our promise. Here is the great earth, filled with fragrant incense and covered with a blanket of flowers. The great mountain, 4 lands, wearing the jewel of the sun and the moon. In my mind, I make them the paradise of a Buddha and offer it all to you. By this deed, may every living being experience the pure love. Idam Guru Ratnam Nandala Kamnirya Tayam. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest community. Through the merit that I do in sharing this class and the rest, May we reach Buddhahood for the sake of every living being. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest community. Through the merit that I do in sharing this class and the rest, may we reach Buddhahood for the sake of every living being. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest community. Through the merit that I do in sharing this class and the rest, may all beings totally awaken for the benefit of every single other. You know what? We also need to set a date for our final to be completed and submitted to our TA, Louisa. Louisa, you're still able to deal with that?
Yes, Lama.
Thank you so much. I'd like to suggest the date November 8th. It's Lama Christie's birthday, so it's an auspicious date for me, at least. And that's a little less than a whole month. So is that good? Is that good for everybody? Okay. Thanks. So you know how to do that. Thank you, Louisa, for organizing all of that for us. So this class, I have a lot of pages of notes and a lot of Tibetan. And I'll do my best to get it all in without going over time, at least very much. So this class is zeroing in on the first two perfections, the perfection of giving and the perfection of ethical living or moral discipline. And then courses 11 and 12 deal with the rest of those 6 perfections, course 12 being the one that handles the wisdom, perfection of wisdom, and the dedication chapter. So let's dig in. The perfection of giving in Tibetan is Jimpe Parchin. Parchin is that paro to Chimpa, right? Taking us to the other side, called perfection. Jimpe is the giving. Jimpa is a very common Tibetan name, right? To be named giving or named generosity. It's kind of nice. Jimpe Parchin. They tell us that there are 3 broad categories to this practice called the perfection of giving. And remember what we've learned so far about the perfection of giving. The perfection is not about reaching external circumstances in which all need for giving is finished. It's about the level of willingness in our own mind to give whatever it's gonna be at whatever time it's going to be. So we'll see. Master Shantideva, he's so understanding. He says, just start with carrots and potatoes. And he means it literally. Just give the extra from your garden away. And then, of course, he takes it more and more deeply into the kinds of things that we will be able to give away when you read the chapter. So the 3 broad categories are these 3: Sangsinki Jimpa, Min Jikpa Jimpa, and Chöki Jimpa. Sangsingi Jimpa means the giving of material things. Sangsing is the material things, meaning food, clothing, shelter, money. They are just samsaric things. But as bodhisattvas, aspiring bodhisattvas, we're in the happiness making business. And we don't limit that to ultimate happiness. Like any moral, healthy happiness is what we're trying to bring others to. Can we actually do it? No, actually, because it's going to depend on their karma, whether what we do for them makes them happy or not. So we wouldn't even like do an act of giving and say to the other person, did that make you happy? You know, because it doesn't matter what they say. Or even as we're watching, it's certainly more satisfactory to share something with somebody and they go, oh, wow, great, thank you so much, as opposed to them going, yeah, right, thanks, right? Expecting, or even saying, why did you give that to me? You know, why did you give me flowers? Don't you know I'm allergic? Right? In terms of the perfection of giving, if in our motivation and our mind was our bodhicitta and the bodhicitta of the no self nature of this whole thing going on, then even as we hand them those flowers and we get that nasty result, we have still made good seeds. And we burnt off the seeds when we were nasty, when somebody was nice to me. So in that case, it's not really even a bad thing when we get a bad result from our giving, because it's like, okay, burn that one off. And now I know what not to do because that was unpleasant. Right. And then that way we're learning and growing from all of our experiences. So Sankisinki Jimpa, we are giving things that we have to give. We are giving things that we can give away without compromising someone else. So, you know, suppose we have a family to support and they need those things too. And we're in a situation where we see somebody in need and they ask us, can you help me? And then it is up to the Bodhisattva to determine, you know, actually, my resources aren't quite enough to share. Now, the thing is, probably we could take a piece of our resources and share. We wouldn't be satisfying that being with everything that they were asking for. But rather than just saying, oh, no, you know, because I feel limited in my resources for my other obligations, we try to find something else, right? Can I give you a loaf of bread instead of $100? Rather than just rejecting altogether. Remember that all of these guidelines are about behavior are in order to coax ourselves into behaving in ways that plant seeds that will ripen in our future as our progress to enlightened being. So it really is designed so that we in the future on our path will have our needs met. We will have the abundance necessary to have the resources to share with others in the circumstances we come up with, and not have the situation where, oh, I seem to have to choose. I have a limit in what I can give. And that evolves into the kind of mental state of abundance where you're never limited in any way, so that you're never limited in your ability to help other people, right? The idea of finally I will get to have enough resources that I will never feel in need. That's not in the picture. It's in the result. We will get there. But that's not like even a phase that we're wanting to get to from the level of being a bodhisattva, wanting to target our Buddhahood. And we will get the result, but that's not why we're doing it. Okay. So we've studied the Bodhisattva vows about giving, the secondary vows about giving, and all those different slippery circumstances, right, that contribute to whether we're damaging or breaking the vow or not. So we would go back and look at those factors in order to fine-tune our perfection of giving effort. Master Shantideva doesn't go into it in that detail, but we have access to it. Master Shantideva tries to inspire us to push the bar of our willingness to give our material resources away. He actually says, give them away. And his reasoning is, it's like, look, as we cling to them and don't give them when we have an opportunity to do so, we are actually making the circumstances in which we won't have the resources to give when we want to. So the more we cling to our stuff, the greater likelihood we will have a future when we don't even have the stuff to cling to, in which case we don't have the stuff to make the goodness of the perfection of giving by being able to give it away. So he says, look, you have stuff to give away it away now before you lose the opportunity, either by dying or by seed shifting so that we don't have sufficient resources to share. But he does not mean, oh, I'm so inspired by Master Shantideva, where I'm going to put everything out on the street. In our neighborhood, if you put something on the sidewalk, it'll be gone the next day. And that's the idea, right? You don't have to take it somewhere. You have to take it to the dump. Someone will take it who wants it. And, right, yay. So it's not this teaching that says, oh, everything that you own is a burden to you. Really just give it away now so you can be free. Because then tomorrow you don't have your car to get to work. That's not the point, right? It's in a circumstance where someone needs your help. They even ask for your help, right? They make it clear that they'd like some help. And we go, yeah, I can help you in this way, maybe not that way. The Bodhisattva also, it's not our job to go around and find somebody who looks like they're in need and decide, oh, I'm going to help you. Right? There is this factor of the person perceiving themselves in need and being willing to receive help. Now, we can probably dance around in hint, or we can assume that the homeless person standing on the street could benefit from a knit cap since the cold weather is coming, even though they don't ask for a knit cap. And maybe I'll hand it to them, and maybe they'll take it and maybe they won't, right? So we can give unsolicitedly, but that's not really what the Bodhisattva career is about. It's being so readily available that someone would actually turn and ask, you wouldn't happen to have an extra cap, would you? Right? No, but here, have mine. Yeah, that kind of giving. So there are guidelines about how much to give so that we don't end up regretting. To regret something that we've given after the fact, they say, is actually worse than not giving at all, karmically speaking. And so our task, as it is in the Bodhisattva vows, is to be our own healthy judge of our urge to give and our resistances to give, and walk this dance, right, of trying to reduce the resistance healthily and trying to push up the bar on our willingness to give. All right. Giving is one of the methods that's creating our Buddha paradise. Second one is Minjikpa Jimpa. Minjikpa means not fear. So the giving of not fear. meaning protection from fear, which means not being someone who would scare somebody, right? Who would cause fear in the feelings of another, whether it's a physical fear or a physical circumstance from which they feel fearful, or an emotional fear, or even a mental fear. I don't know quite. Some kind of feeling threatened by us that's not physical, just right, some kind of mental fear. So really this focus is doing our best to protect other beings from harm, or for even feeling like they could potentially be harmed from our side, right? Our own behavior. How to gain this alertness to, can my behavior be being perceived as threatening? And we walk by a flock of birds and they go, blah, right? We were threatening to the flock of birds. You scuff through the ants, right? And they go, yeah, they've been threatened. Little ways like that. So it's not just towards other human beings. Those are the big ones, the more powerful ones, of course. Do we come across in some way as threatening to somebody? And if we find ourselves answering yes to that question, maybe I'm come across as arrogant, right? Maybe my words are too harsh for that person, perfect for this person, but too harsh for that person. And once I realize it, I just keep doing it instead of adjusting, right? I would have lost this opportunity or missed the opportunity to protect someone from fear. So really the fear isn't necessarily oh, my life is threatened. It's a situation of, agitation, of unsafeness, unsafe. Let's call it that. Protection from feeling unsafe. Why do you suppose that would be a big aspect in our perfection of giving? How's it going to ripen? Even before we see ourselves as Buddha, we're going to feel safe, right? We will have circumstances in which we are safe. It takes feeling safe to be able to turn our minds to a spiritual path. It doesn't necessarily mean I've got the great job and the great house, that kind of safe. Many saints, right? We're feeling very safe living in the forest. But it's that sense of not in survival mode. If we are in survival mode, we're not going to be able to come to class and study and meditate. Right? Even if we can do the physical means of doing that, the state of mind on constant alert for protection, that's a big part of us. And then the wisdom just can't get in when it's blocked in that way. So giving other beings that sense of personal safety around you, right? How comforting would that be for someone who's on constant alert, right? Expecting you to say something nasty because everybody does. And then repeated exposure to you, you just don't do it. They're eventually going to relax around you. And what a difference that will make for them, even if you're only with them 5 minutes a week. No, it's 5 minutes of a different experience of their world. So towards humans, towards animals, Minjikpa Jimpa. Master Shantideva, he points out, sometimes there's aggression going on and it's directed towards you. And we're trying to be as harmless towards another as we can. And what we're experiencing is somebody being dangerously harmful to me, what happens then? You know, am I just supposed to sit there and take it as a bodhisattva? You know, if you can run away fast, certainly do that. But probably you would have done it already. You wouldn't be asking this question. And he says, yes, sometimes your bodhisattva, you will have to act with force. But your motivation for that force will not be the usual hurt them before they can hurt me. It will be in order to protect them from hurting me. Like maybe I need to push them down. Maybe, you know, I need to, I don't know, throw my purse at them. Maybe when we are keenly motivated as correctly as possible, the force that we use towards them, it will still come back to us as some forceful behavior, but forceful from the perspective of protective force, right? Protecting them by our force. He says, think in your mind, what if that person who's acting so aggressively towards you were your mother gone mad? Would you be so quick to hurt them before they hurt you? Would you rather be trying some way to disarm, to defuse, to something, to get through to your crazy mother so that you don't have to hurt them, to get them to stop hurting themselves, which is what's happening? Yeah. Okay. Third one is Chuki Jimpa. Chu here is the Dharma. Chuki Jimpa, giving the Dharma. They say giving the Dharma is the highest form of giving because you are planting for them, giving them what they would be able to use to go on to stop all their suffering forever, not just that moment's suffering that you are helping them overcome, right? A hungry person that we feed, they will get hungry again. A fearful person who we don't contribute to their fear, they will go on to make other people fearful and they will get fearful again. Someone we teach the Dharma to, you know, of course, they'll go on being ignorant for a time, but to just have somebody listen through the pen explanation all the way through, whether they agree with us or not, has planted seeds in their mind for a very different understanding of themselves and their world. And those seeds are growing. So sharing the Dharma is the highest. As I said, if somebody's hungry and scared, you can't explain to them the pen thing. They're not interested. They're not safe. Even if they follow it, they'll be rejecting it every step of the way. And we don't want that either. So we wouldn't try to explain the pen thing to somebody who's in a, you know, seriously suffering kind of way. You don't say to somebody who's just been shook up by having been mugged, oh, you know what? This is your own seeds ripening and you just purified it. Don't you feel better? You know, they're probably going to haul off and slug you if you do that. It's not helpful. We can be thinking it, right? And as a result, loving them more, having more empathy for them, and somehow trying to deflect their conversation that's talking about how bad the other person was to hurt them in that way, right? Direct the subject matter somewhere else to help them. So giving the Dharma, they can be formal classes, of course. Thank you very much for the opportunity. But really it refers to giving the realizations, giving the insight into how life can be different. And we start in that way by showing by example, right? How a human can interact with their world in a way that seems really dramatically different than what an ordinary person does. We don't say, oh, I do it because I'm a bodhisattva or aspiring. We just behave with greater attention to the other's needs, greater care and concern to the best of our ability. And that influences other people. And they will start either mirroring your behavior, even if they don't know why, which is that alone is enough to get it started, or they'll come right out and ask you about it. Did you just grow up this way, or is this something you learned? And then we have this doorway to actually say, yeah, can I explain it to you? It'll take about a half hour and go through the pen thing, and then drop it until they ask you again. The text says, or Geshe Michael was using the term, giving the Dharma means giving realizations. But it's like, I can't give anybody realizations. If I could, Buddha would give me some, right? And we'd all be Buddhas already. So giving them the tools that they would need to gain their own realizations really is what it means. Okay. So next, Master Shantideva goes into the kind of deeds that are more powerful than others. He is using it in terms of in the act of giving, but the same circumstances apply to any of the perfections, any of our behavior. If we want to plant those seeds in a more powerful way, there are certain considerations that we keep in mind. So certain circumstances we're looking for that we especially want to do our active giving, our active moral discipline. So here's these 4, 5, 6 different factors. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Right. Gyunda Jawa, Gyundu Jawa, excuse me, means giving in a stream. It's not giving, it means acting in a stream, doing whatever this behavior is that we're wanting to make the seed strongly. To do it in a stream, meaning doing it often, regularly. When we've been giving $1 a day to Diamond Mountain, then any of our acts of giving get more strong. Particularly the $1 we give to Diamond Mountain, by the time we've given 1,000 of them, the $1,001 is more potent a seed than the first $1 because of the power of giving in a stream. But any of our giving gets stronger and stronger when we give regularly. Right? So any moral discipline will get more and more potent when we are doing that particular moral disciplining regular. Makes sense? Because we've got the seeds and we're adding to the seeds. So all the seeds are growing. Yeah. Like, what do they call it in finances? Dollar cost averaging. Right? You put in $1 a month and you just keep putting in $1 a month. And what's in there grows. Pretty soon, the $1 a month that you're putting in is coming out of what you put in before, and then you don't even have to keep adding to it. It's adding to itself. It's kind of like that. Next one, Dumpa Drakpo. Here. Dumpa means motivation and Drakpo means fierce. When it's spelled DR, but when we hear it said, it sounds like Dakpo. You can't really hear the word, the R. Dumpa Dakpo. Giving with fierce motivation, meaning with really strong feelings, right? We can give somebody, yeah, here you go. Or we can give somebody, with this deep sense of compassion. Oh man, you're hurting so badly. I wish I could just solve it, but all I've got for you is this sandwich. May it give you enough relief that things will change. Right? A strong feeling as we give it. And then that feeling can be a feeling of compassion or intense devotion, right? Depending on what you're giving to. Great sincerity. And then, of course, the highest motivation is to give with this really strong intention, such that your giving to them will lead them and you and everybody else to their freedom from suffering ultimately someday. Like to have that motivation in mind as we hand the sandwich to the homeless person. It's all being done in our own inner state, right? We don't have to be saying to the person, I see you're hungry. I don't know if you're ordinary human or if you're fully enlightened being giving me the opportunity to give to you, right? Here's this sandwich. I know it looks just like a regular sandwich, but it could be nectar. It could give you such blood, right? You don't say that to them. Kind of rattle around in your own mind. Use some words. Oh, bodhicitta with bodhicitta. Bodhicitta with bodhicitta, bodhicitta, right? So you can reach your Buddhahood, so I can reach my Buddhahood, so everybody can reach their Buddhahood. But rather than just blah-blahing it out the way my mind does, take it from here. It's like, wow, this sandwich is imbued with bodhicitta. Please accept it. Right? All as you smile and say, would you like my cheese sandwich? This other stuff's going on in your mind. Okay. Geshe shared the story of the prince who came across the mother tiger with the 5 cubs, and they were all starving. And the prince had such compassion in his heart for the mom and the cubs that he felt the urge to feed them. And she couldn't even eat him. She was so weak, so he had to cut himself so the blood would go, and he like poured it into her mouth, and she got stronger and stronger, and then she got strong enough to eat him. And then she got strong enough to make milk, so her cubs survived. And all the while he's doing that, they say he's thinking, by this act, may these 5 beings become my first students, and I will take them to their total Buddhahood. Like by this deed, I'm going to reach my Buddhahood so that I can help them reach their Buddhahood. And that's all he's thinking, right? As he's cutting himself and saving the life. And then we hear the fast forward, the result, Shakyamuni Buddha has these buddies, he's doing the asceticism, and, he realizes that this isn't the right way. And he ditches them. And of course, they're like, what's the matter with him, right? This is the right path. And then he goes on to fine-tune the middle way and reach his total enlightenment. So he's sitting on his kusha grass nest, having reached total enlightenment, thinking, nah, nobody's going to believe this. I'll just stay right here. And then he gets the urge, probably from the previous Buddhas, no, you reached this because you promised to teach. You promised to help others do it. Get your butt off the grass and go do something. So he does, and he goes walking, And who does he come across is those 5 ascetics, and they like aren't thinking so highly of him because he gave up. But they see him like sort of glowing in light, and they go, wow, what happened to you? And he goes, sit down, I'll tell you. And he describes what he went through and the result, and he teaches them. And those 5 were reborns, multiple times, same as his sense, but reborns of the mother and her cubs. So it really did come true that his wish for them to be his students and take them to enlightenment should happen. And then it said that all 5 of those along in that lifetime, they all reached their direct perception of emptiness. They all reached Arya and better. So fierce motivation is a powerful factor that makes our 6 perfections done so strongly that they bring about the result. Next one, mitunchok. Mitunchok means opposite side. Mitun is opposite, I guess. Meaning doing the act of giving or any of the perfections specifically as an antidote for the 3 poisons in our mind. Right? So when we are actively doing our giving as a perfection, we can include in the scenario, I'm doing this in order to reach my total Buddhahood, and in order to do that, I need to negate those 3 poisons. And why not? I can think of, I'm doing this act of giving as an antidote to my habit of disrespecting people in my speech. And here's the last time I did it, and here's the habit of doing it. So even as I'm doing my act of giving with fierce motivation, it can include, and I'm doing it as an antidote to those 3 basic poisons: ignorant liking, ignorant disliking, and the misunderstanding itself that drives the other 2. Makes our act of giving stronger to do it as an antidote. Where am I? Yunten Kixing. Yunten means good qualities. So the Yunten Kixing is to do our act of giving towards a powerful object. An object, meaning a field of merit is what this is. To do our act of the perfection towards a being from our field of merit. A powerful karmic object for us. Makes our giving more powerful. Give the same object to someone we don't see as a powerful karmic object and to someone we do see as a powerful karmic object, the implant is different, even though the object is the same. We've learned that before. So what makes a powerful karmic object? We've learned someone who's benefited us in a powerful way is a powerful karmic object for us. There's relative levels, ways in which they've benefited us. They're all good, but some are more powerful than others. And so we've learned that our Dharma teachers, especially the one we're closest to, our heart teacher, is the most powerful karmic object because of our connection with them. They're the one that's going to help us stop, all suffering in all beings forever someday. And if we see that what they're teaching us is leading us in that direction, then they become this really, really powerful karmic object for us. They don't necessarily have to see themselves as that. Right? It's our perception of them. Then, of course, the list includes parents, mother in particular, because they gave us this body through which we can put these practices into practice. And again, it's not about how good a mother she was. It's just the fact that she birthed you and contributed to keeping you alive long enough that you could take over the responsibility. So father had a part in that as well, of course. So fathers are powerful karmic objects as well. We had the list in July's teachings in Mexico, right? Anybody who's taught us anything is a stronger karmic object than someone who hasn't. Okay. So they say the highest karmic object is the 3 jewels. And that's a little bit weird because it's like, wait, I don't actually have access to the 3 jewels. I don't think. Right? The best I can do seems to be my altar. So are they saying to put an offering on my altar is higher than to give an offering to Geshe Michael, which is higher than giving an offering to my mom and dad if they were still alive or even if they're not? And that's higher than to give an offering to, I don't know, my high school teacher that made me learn to write. And is that higher, right? How do we really have to hierarchize the things like that? No, right? We're keeping the idea in mind. And then as Geshe-la's starting to teach us, so this is not from class, he's starting to teach us these clues about what makes the other a powerful karmic object is how we're thinking about them. And if we go through that sequence of they look like my Dharma teacher, but I understand, I don't know what they see themselves as. Maybe they're Buddha, maybe not, but maybe they are. And if they are, then doggone it, they're a really strong karmic object. Right? And so I want to behave towards them in ways that plant seeds in my mind for my progress on the path. And like it puts a lot of pressure on us if we really do that and decide, right, I'm going to treat that person as if they're a Buddha, even though they look really ordinary as they pick their nose and do what they do. But I'm going to treat them as a Buddha, which means, prostrate to them, make offerings to them, do all these really weird things to them that maybe they're going to go, what are you doing? Stand up. Like, why are you giving that to me? Like, leave me alone. But if we're going to plant the seeds we want to plant, then once we make that determination, stick to it. So don't make that determination levy. So giving towards powerful karmic objects makes our active giving stronger. Okay. Geshe-la shared this story of Jetsun Kappa with his early disciples, and they're wandering around through the countryside looking for a place to build their first monastery. And they're about out of money. And they haven't quite found the place. And they're saying, let's go buy groceries. And Jetsun Kappa says, no, let's go buy offerings. And let's take those offerings to that temple over there. Like there was some, I don't know what. And the disciples are going, yeah, but we're hungry. And Jetsun Kappa is, let's try this out. So he spends all their money that they have left on offerings to this altar. They put them there. They go hungry that day. And the next day along comes this big troop of yak herders. And they meet and they explain to the yak herders what they're doing. And the yak herders say, wow, great. Here, here's food. We'll help you. Right? The yak herders help them find the place for the monastery and establish it somehow. So, they had the good seeds, that the sacrifice that they made by using their last resources to make offerings to the three jewels was like the straw that we would say broke the camel's back, but the straw that finished the load. And the next thing you know, all their resources is coming to them. Geshe-la then said, so remember, these classes were before anybody knew he had seen emptiness directly. So he said, and another example of giving to powerful karmic object that is the three jewels. He said, you might, for some special reason, decide to sell your most valuable object for whatever money you could get for it, and take all that money and go buy the highest quality diamond you could for that amount of money. And then take that diamond and offer it to the three jewels on the altar, even hiding it, right? So nobody else needed to know, as a powerful act of giving. Fast forward 30 years, and we know what he's talking about why he would do that, and why it would occur to him to do that, came out of the wisdom of that experience, from this seeing the seeds ripen directly into the direct perception, into the heart opening bodhicitta, through the four Arya truths, and then out in that space where you can read minds and know what's going on so clearly for that short period of time. And then to see that the most powerful thing he could do next was sell his car, get a diamond, make offerings to the three jewels. It's a powerful example, right, of the power of putting your offerings on your altar. Like, I'm on automatic pilot when I do it. Less so now, but put out the water bowls, put out the offering for the hungry or for the local spirits, put out the specialty offering for my own angel. And then, I go for refuge in the three jewels. Okay, see you tomorrow. And it's like stupid to be that automatic pilot, when really it's the most powerful thing I do, short of these classes, is making offerings to the three jewels. It means I don't really believe that they're there with me. It's such an easy opportunity to have a little altar and use resources to put out offerings. What resources? Water. 7 bowls of water. How hard is that? All right. Next one. Pendokpe Shing. Pendokpe Shing. Pendokpe Shing. That Shing is that field, the special object field. Pendokpe means a helper. Helper to do. Special object helper to do. What does that mean in English? It means the special object of someone who's helped you in some way. That's the helper. In order to pay them back. In order to recognize their kindness to us, to give to someone who's helped us greatly, makes our giving more powerful than to give to someone who's simply in need. Which is funny, because maybe the person who helped you greatly is someone who's like wealthy enough that they don't need anything from you. And then your neighbor is struggling, I can buy food or I can buy my medicine. it seems like the neighbor would be a more powerful karmic object to give to. But technically, the wealthy person who has no need, but who's helped you a lot, is a more powerful karmic object. Do we really need to make a choice between the two? Probably not. But it's an odd thing to think about, right? Our mind wants to say, no, the person in need is the more powerful karmic object, right? Think about why that isn't the case. However, the next one says, Dunyel Chen Kishing, which Dunyel Chen means someone in great suffering, becomes a powerful karmic object, right? So now that neighbor who, if they don't get their medicine, their blood sugar will go haywire, versus somebody who, if they don't get their vitamin pills, right? It's like, yeah, they'll do better with vitamin pills, but it's not life-threatening to go out without a vitamin pill. The one who's more greatly in suffering is more powerful than the one who's not so greatly in suffering. Now, every being is in suffering because we all live in samsara, but we mean the obvious suffering. Like the closer to life-threatening the suffering is on the physical plane, emotional, the more disastrous the emotional suffering is, could lead to behavior that could really hurt others or themselves. And same with mental state. Anyone in dire need is a powerful karmic object. Well, then how do we figure out, like, how do we prioritize then? If there are all these different objects towards whom we can make our giving more powerful, how do we decide? And how do we make our plan? And there's this whole topic of learning called prioritization. It is this Jawa Nidom. Jawa Nidom. It means the action. Jawa Nidom is when two converge. So this term for prioritization is when there's a convergence of two actions, meaning two things that you could do are happening as if at the same time. How do you decide which one is the more necessary one? Jawakidum, nidum. Prioritization has two types. Oh, it's time for break. Let's take a break before we do the two types. I'm going to let the recording run. Please get refreshed.
Mama, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
So with the karmic objects and the power of the different karmic objects, so you say, if I believe my altar is a powerful karmic object, then it becomes a powerful karmic object, but not the other way around. Meaning, if I believe my mother is not a powerful karmic object, that doesn't apply.
Yeah.
I'm a bit like,
Yeah, that's a good point. It's just the thinking, deciding I'm going to think that Auntie is a powerful karmic object. It doesn't make her a powerful karmic object. The thinking, well, maybe she's an angel. That state of mind, and I'm going to give to her as if she's an angel, increases the power of your giving. So if you decide with Mom, well, I'm just going to decide she's not a powerful karmic object. That doesn't change the fact that she helped you in such a powerful way as giving you your life, regardless of what else she did or didn't do. So there are experiences that we've had that are deciding she's not powerful karmic object doesn't negate the history that we have experienced with them.
Okay.
Yeah.
And by the way, this with the bowls for the altar, I need a practical tip because I have been buying different types, and this for made out of brass, I think is the name of the metal. Can you hear
Yeah.
me, Lama?
Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry, what
What
was the question?
it's just a practical question for the bowls for the altar
Yeah.
because I bought the ones from made of brass
Uh-huh.
that are supposed to be for offerings for Tibetan altars.
Right.
And then when you put water, they oxidate and then they look bad and they this corrosion, or what is the name in English?
Yeah, yeah, it does. They corrode and they get that gunky stuff on them. Yeah.
So I don't know which ones to buy. If you have any recommendation.
My personal set that I have on there right now are little plastic
Okay.
teriyaki bowls. And the reason I have them is because they pour so perfectly. They don't spill.
Uh,
They're so easy to
nice.
use. They're white so that it doesn't show the buildup. Well, actually, I use purified water, so it doesn't do the buildup of the white crust on it. But yeah, technically, when your offering bowls are starting to look unpleasant, you replace them.
Yeah. No, these ones were new. And then with the water, they just,
Yeah.
yeah. So now I just have one, like ceramic.
Yeah. You can do ceramic, you can do glass. They just need to have that lip on the edge so that you can pour from one to the next to the next,
Thank you, Lama.
in my experience. Otherwise, they make a big mess. we be back? Hello? Okay. So in this prioritization, we may find ourselves in situations where we need to be able to prioritize within any given perfection. Some situation we find ourselves in where there are two different ways to practice that perfection, and which one's the one I should do now. And then the second is when we need to prioritize between two different perfections. So Geshe addressed that first, the two different perfections. Like if we had to choose between doing an act of giving versus meditating deeply on emptiness, the more powerful karma is to meditate on emptiness. Because meditation and emptiness are perfections 5 and 6. And it's like, that feels really weird. Because wouldn't we always be in a position where we're have two different perfections we could act on? Like, I don't understand this. But the reason they're saying is that it's as if in a given 5 minutes, we can either run off and give the sandwich to the homeless person, or we could sit and meditate on emptiness. In which case the homeless person seems to go hungry, and maybe they go away and we don't have the opportunity again. If we really had to choose, spending 5 minutes deeply meditating on emptiness is the more powerful thing to do. If we actually can't do a 5-minute deep meditation on emptiness, then we're fooling ourselves to say, I'm going to sit here and meditate on emptiness instead of go help. Right? So it really has to be truly a conundrum. What do I do? And probably we're not going to find ourselves in that kind of situation very often, where we really have to choose between two different perfections to do in that single moment. Like, why not think emptiness while you feed the homeless person and then sit and meditate on emptiness? It's not like it's now or never for either one of those. When we have a priority, or when we have a choice to make, choosing the highest perfection is the stronger karma. Choosing to act from that higher perfection is the stronger karma. Same is true with our vows. We have pratimoksha vows, we have bodhisattva vows. Someday we'll have tantric vows. Our bodhisattva vows take precedence over our freedom vows. There might be a time when it seems like the behavior for your bodhisattva vow seems to contradict your freedom vow. The classical one, they say, is for an fully ordained person. They're not allowed to keep the cloth that they would use to make robes without making robes out of them within 10 days. Otherwise, they're supposed to pass that fabric on to somebody else who will use them. But a bodhisattva monk is supposed to store that cloth until they come across somebody who needs it, and then give it away, right? Not just hand it over to the first one comes along, but wait and give it when there is a need. And then if somebody didn't know you were a bodhisattva monk and you were storing that cloth, right, you'd get in trouble because you're not allowed to store cloth with your freedom vows. So like that. But how often do we really find ourselves in that kind of circumstance, right? If we think we're finding ourselves in that circumstance often, we should probably look carefully because probably we're using it as an excuse for something. Then within any given perfection, then the prioritization requires consideration of the power of the object, the power of the karmic object, towards which we're going to do our deed. And then we would choose our act to be towards the more powerful karmic object. So I spoke to that a little bit earlier. It seems like the person most suffering would be the most powerful deed to do. But in fact, if we really had this moment to only give to one or the other, then giving to the higher of the two is a stronger karma. Why do we want a stronger karma? That's just selfish. No, all these karmas are causes for our Buddhahood, so that we can help that other reach Buddhahood as well. So the one who's closest to that Buddhahood, if not already that, is therefore the most powerful object towards whom we can plant our seeds for reaching that state ourselves. So it does seem a little backwards. Bodhisattvas are in the happiness-making business. High karmic objects are already happy. Suffering beings are not so happy, but those suffering beings are a long way from becoming fully enlightened beings. Our contact with them is going to help, but if we truly have to choose between, the Bodhisattva chooses the highest karmic object. Again, don't fool ourselves into thinking, I really only have a choice to make. We can probably do both. Yeah. Geshe-la says, don't leave prioritization as a vague thing. Get it clear in our minds. I was happy to hear this teaching again because I had let my prioritization get sloppy. So thank you for that. It does not mean never give to lower objects. Right? Of course we do. But we don't use all our resources towards lower objects. Okay. Okay. Let's go on to the second perfection. Living an ethical life. Here it is. Sultram ki parchan. Right? Parchan is the perfection. Sultram means morality. So the perfection of morality. Geshe-la likes ethical way of life. It seems a little more relatable than morality. So Master Shantideva teaches us that there are three main kinds of ethical behavior. One is keeping our freedom vows, meaning the behaviors through which we avoid harmful deeds. The second is undertaking deeds that collect good energy. So let me correct myself. The first one is keeping any of our vows that are worded in such a way that we avoid harming others. We will have some vows that are not about avoiding harm, and they're about actually doing something kind, but most of them are avoiding. The second kind of ethical behavior is focusing on deeds through which we collect good energy. Like we were talking about that earlier in this course. We do those things that gather the goodness so our purification can even work. So we can gather more goodness so our meditation can work. So we can gather more goodness so we can get wisdom. Right? So it's an actual level of morality to gather goodness. And then the third one is to undertake behavior aimed at liberating sentient beings, oneself included. So Master Shantideva says this last one, the behavior aimed at bringing liberation, it has 3 parts. Here are the 3, Shenden Hlurlang, Shendue Laba, and Segujin Mijin. Sorry, got distracted there. Shenden Hlurlang is this advice for how to go about undertaking this behavior to liberate beings, including oneself. And Shenden means other benefit, others benefit. Shen means other. Hlurlang means like go for it. Geshe-la called it kick butt, right? In English, we have that term. It's like, yeah, you work really, really hard in your training program, right? You're kick butt. Now they use a more vulgar term, but it's to like go at it, immerse ourselves in this particular behavior. Shinden, immerse ourselves, go for it for others' benefit, doing what we do for others' benefit. Within our capacity and within the guidance of our vows. The go for it. Like really throw ourselves into helping others. Having the state of mind, everything that I'm doing to help somebody else. Even if I'm all by myself. It's just me doing the dishes. But I can still be having the state of mind, I'm doing the dishes to reach Buddhahood, to help everybody stop suffering. You know, it's like, what did doing the dishes have to do with getting to Buddha? Just thinking about it that way is enough to make a shift. Do they become causes for my Buddhahood? Not just by thinking about bodhicitta. When I have full-on bodhicitta, direct perception and the heart opening in the past, now my doing the dishes with that thought in mind is actually seeds for that result. Until then, it's seeds for those results, direct perception and the heart opening, right? So we're not wasting our time. It's moving us through the stages of our path. Next one is Shendu Laba. Laba means to train. Shendue, get up there where you belong. Shendue means to gather others. So this is gathering others to train. Training in how to gather others. How do we attract others to the Dharma? Right? How do we coax them into wanting to learn, to study and practice it? There are actual methods for doing so. You know, we understand, we've said all along, show by example. Maybe somebody close to you knew you when you were younger and you know, would fly off the handle, maybe at the drop of a hat. And then, I don't know, they see that those usual triggers, they weren't, it wasn't happening the same way, or it took a much greater trigger. And they're gonna like be, what's up with you? You know, at some point, it's going to benefit them to see you change. Whether they never ask you about it or not, you've had an impact by way of you changing. But that means they had to know you before. Like, what if they only know you now, when you are this crazy compassionate person? Still, when they see you interacting with a circumstance where they expect you to act in some, ordinarily human way, and we don't, even if they never knew me before, they go, like, oh, whether they ask me about it or not, it's still like they expected me to act like this and I acted like that instead, in a more kind way. It influences people just by them witnessing you. And it's the first step in attracting people to the wisdom, let's call it, right? The words are attracting them to Buddhism, as if we want everybody to be Buddhist. It's like, we don't need everybody to be Buddhist, but we do want everybody to understand the wisdom of living according to you reap what you sow. And then, be Christian and live that way. That's fine. It works better anyway. So this gathering people to the Dharma, at first blush, it's just showing by our own behavior. And it's part of our morality, our choice of morality, to do our morality in order to attract them. Then, if it does happen that they go, wow, how did you learn how to do that? And you say, well, I'm happy to teach you if you'd like. And they actually say, yeah, let's do it. Then our morality would be to figure out a way to provide those teachings in a way that made it easy for them to attend, on their schedule if you can, in an inexpensive or, non-charging way, that to really facilitate them to receive what you have to share. So they say, to attract people to the Dharma, on the first level, we would use material things to make it easy for them, providing as much support as we can. So suppose the person who asks you for teaching is somebody, who doesn't know where dinner is coming from the next day. You would decide, okay, I'll make sure that there's food at this gathering so that I can feed them a proper dinner, as part of the teaching for them. However, in this sharing material things, there are guidelines about what's appropriate to share and what's not. And that's this Segu Jinmi Jin, which Segu means food and clothes. Jinmi Jin, it means give, not give. Like when to give and when not to give. So there's always that part about enabling somebody versus empowering somebody. The Bodhisattva is not meant to be taken advantage of, or to say, oh, I'm a Bodhisattva, so I will help them do anything that they want, so they're happy enough that they'll listen to me when I tell them, right, don't behave like this. But that enabling is really powerful and hard to see and hard to break when it started. So we're supposed to draw the line at our giving at our own spiritual capacity, meaning don't give more than you're gonna regret later. And it's like Geshe told this story of Rinpoche was teaching pre-Diamond Way down in Washington, D.C. at this home of a wealthy woman. And she was so inspired, Rinpoche, you need a center to be able to teach down here. You can have my house. And and Geshe-la heard her say that, and he was saying, Rinpoche, let's do that. It'd be so great. We could have a whole center down here. And Rinpoche said to the woman, thank you so much. That's so kind and generous. But you know what? You keep the house. You're going to need it. He knew that she was just enthused by the first blush, and that sometime later she'd be going, why did I give him my house? And that's just so serious obstacle on her part, that in his wisdom, it's like, no, thank you very much. Even though it probably hurt her feelings at the time, right? Because she was so jazzed at being able to give her house away. She could have done it, but not sustained the goodness, the feeling of goodness about it. There are proper things to give and not to give. From our side, when we're the woman wanting to give. Second factor is lula minu. Lula means body. Don't hurt the body. The advice on not to hurt your body, doing your bodhisattva deeds. But wait, almost every bodhisattva we hear about has either plucked out his eyeball or cut himself up or fed himself to a tiger. What's going on here? They didn't do it before they had their own mind and identity adequately prepared, so that then that was no more difficult for them to give their eyeball than it would have been for me to give the extra basil from my garden to somebody, because of the relationship with the bodhisattva and their eyeball. No worries, right? Until we're there, don't give your eyeball. Don't cut your flesh, right? Don't give more of yourself than you'll miss some point. Don't hurt your body. Be willing to hurt your body. Yeah, somebody need my eyeball, I'll give it. I hope I never meet them. Who wants it? Like, I hope I'd be willing. But when it really came down to push to shove, I'm so sorry. I can't act on the willingness. That's okay, right? That honest assessment. Maybe next time. Yeah. When Geshe-la was saying he's going to need a kidney, I think a whole bunch of us, said or wanted to say to him, you can have mine. Check me for a match. And you remember his first response? I'm not taking a kidney from any student. And I was a little offended, personally. It's like, why wouldn't you take a kidney from a student? Why would you take it from Joe Schmo, right? Take it from somebody ordinary, but not your student. But I suspect he would foresee so much mental affliction, between students and that one, that it's like, let's not go there. I'll get a kidney someplace else. No, I don't know where the kidney's coming from. I don't know if it is a student after all, but it took me aback a little bit, his response. And now I think I understand it better. The third factor in this giving is Lu Jin Dugu, which means giving our body time and purpose. Dugu means time and purpose, meaning when the time comes and we really are ready and prepared, then you give up your body and your life in an instant, meaning no regret. Geshe-la said, like, you're on your bike, you're going by the boardwalk, and you see somebody has just fallen in the river, and they're help, help. You just jump off your bike, dive in, like you don't even think of it. And unfortunately, sometimes those people die and the other person's saved. Some people, they both die. Sometimes they both are saved. But that instant, it's right to do, and you do it. When you're there, do it. But not until. And thank goodness, how often do we have the opportunity to jump in the river and save somebody? In my world, it's not very often. So hopefully in your world as well. Then, where are we in this outline? We're talking about the 3 parts of undertaking the behavior aimed at liberating sentient beings, including myself. 1 was go for it for others' benefit. 2 was how to gather others to the Dharma. Number 3, and that was these other things. Number 3 is how to attract the people to the Dharma with the Dharma itself. So the previous one is how to attract people to the Dharma by way of my behavior. This one, how do we do it by way of sharing the Dharma itself? Like to keep them engaged. How do we share it? There are 1, 2, 3 factors to that one. The first one, Nyempu Kunchu. Let me get down here. What am I doing? I've got time. Nyempu Kunchu means the student's behavior. Nyempu means the student. Kunchu is their behavior. So this is advice on which students are improper to teach, which you come to that conclusion based on their behavior. So when we are using the Dharma to attract and keep people in the Dharma, if the student is not behaving well towards you, towards the other students, towards what the Dharma is teaching, then it is inappropriate, or it is appropriate not to teach them. A Bodhisattva is meant to judge accurately. Nobody can judge unless we're Buddha, but to use your careful attention to see whether the student is an open vessel, because we're not helping a student by continuing to give them the Dharma if they're not behaving respectfully. It's their own mind is rejecting the Dharma if they're disrespecting this situation. And to keep trying to pour it on them, it's going to keep bouncing off. Their seeds will be such that even when they want to get it and they are being respectful, it won't be available to them. So if they're not being respectful. Second one, if they don't behave properly in class. But now that's based culturally. No, in that Tibetan culture, the behave properly in class is do the prostrations when the Lama sits down and when they stand up. Before you move towards them, you do your 3 prostrations. Hold your hands in this position. Sit upright. Don't put your feet towards the altar, right? All these kinds of rules that we just don't grow up with in a Western society. We have different rules. So in the context of one's own society, we're looking at behavior that represents whether the person is taking the studies seriously or not. And then it's a criteria. It helps us see whether they are gonna be able to benefit from what we teach or not. And then it's Bodhisattva behavior to say, I'm so sorry, but because of these factors, come back when you're really ready. Because to continue to have them come and be disruptive hurts them and hurts others. So it's our morality to behave in ways that helps the others get liberated. Sometimes not teaching them will help them better than teaching. Next one is Nuki Sampa. Nuki Sampa means the level of the vessel. So it's part of this morality to teach to the level of the student. And when you're teaching a group class, you just have to do an overall assessment based on what you've taught before to know what level to teach at. When you're helping somebody more one-on-one, you're trying to match the level of your teaching to their capacity. Too much is overwhelming. Too little, they get bored. Right? And that only comes by getting to know them and, interacting. But again, the tendency might be, oh, I want to give the Dharma at all costs. I want to give it all. And we can give too much too fast. The student can want too much too fast. And that would be just as harmful as not getting enough fast enough. So that if we are sharing the Dharma, part of our morality is to do the best we can to match the teachings to the student. It's inappropriate to teach the highest levels or secret levels to those who are not prepared. And it actually breaks a vow to do so. It's also inappropriate to teach at technical levels that would turn the student off, which could be either too much or too little. All right. Third factor in this one, up here, Gyachan Nula Menmijar. Mijar means don't put. The Gyachan means vast capacity. No, it's mula, not nula. Mula means attraction or aptitude. Men means lower teachings. So this is saying, be careful to teach the higher capacity students to their highest capacity, and the lower capacity students to their highest capacity, right? Which isn't the same. We're nudging both a little beyond their capacity. The one before said, don't push so far, so fast that we're going to hurt them. This one says, but don't get lazy and keep them at the same level that they're already at. Okay. There's a third part in undertaking the action to liberate others, and it is Samjesu Zimpa. Zimpa means, here it means to keep others' faith. So Samjesu is the mind that wants to keep others' faith. So this is similar to what we've already talked about. It's how our own behavior will influence other people's faith in the teachings. If other people, whether they are your students or not, but in particular, if they are students, then we as the teacher have this responsibility that our behavior be such that continues to inspire in them faith. If we're not their teacher, but in our community, for instance, our community knows that we're Buddhist, which I don't think our community does necessarily, but if they did, and they're not all Buddhists, then they'd be sort of having us in like a fish in a bowl, watching our behavior to see what are Buddhists like. And so we want to be on that best behavior while we're amongst them, so that, right, we give our tradition a good reputation. And we might say, well, that's fake. If I really am still a jerk, I can be a Buddhist jerk just like I can be a non-Buddhist jerk. Why? It's not right to pretend I'm better than I am when I'm amongst people in order to give a good opinion of the Dharma. But if we think of the seeds that we're making as we're acting on our best behavior in order to attract people to the Dharma someday, is it such a bad thing to pretend that I've got these good qualities? It's actually a mental affliction to pretend I have good qualities that I don't actually do. But if I'm pretending to have those good qualities and actually acting from them, I'm planting to see the seeds to see myself with them, not having to force myself into that better behavior. If we wait until the better behavior just bubbles up out of us naturally, we will probably be waiting a long time, right? It hasn't happened yet. It does take a certain amount of fake it till you make it to plant those seeds strongly enough for them to become the habit. All right, so what kind of behavior are we talking about here? As behavior to grow admiration, interest, or faith in the Dharma. There is madepapang. It means prevent others from losing faith. So if somebody already has some faith in the Dharma, our job when we are around them is to not do anything that would make them lose their faith. So again, like on our best vow-keeping behavior when we are around other people. There are ordination vows about behavior for protecting our own mind, our own lifestyle, like our own reputation with ourselves. And then we have Bodhisattva vows that actually override some of these. But the motivation for those behaviors as a Bodhisattva is, can we say, so much more powerful than our motivation of reaching nirvana for ourselves. Right? That these old restrictions of ordination are no longer appropriate for the one whose motivation is so much higher. We still keep them as guidelines for our own personal behavior, and we live the Bodhisattva vows, and it becomes not contradictory even though the behavior is different. So Master Shantideva goes into specific behaviors through which we prevent others from losing the faith. And those are just being basically polite. Don't spit. Don't blow your nose onto the street. Like, don't look sloppy. Be respectful. He then shares describing how we show the path to others, Lam Tunpa, which is just describing the etiquette of the culture, which again, the etiquette of the Tibetan Buddhist culture is appropriate when you're around other Tibetan Buddhists. Tibetan Buddhists, not just in the tradition of Tibetan Buddhism. So if we're around a tradition of Tibetan Buddhists who are Western, Westerners have a certain custom for politeness. And right, we follow that as well. Polite, pleasing manners, sensitive to others' needs, considerate, thoughtful, polite. They really reflect our entire commitment to the Bodhisattva way. Be kind. Be attentive. Try to be helpful. We can't always do that. And then the third one is Nelwe Kunchu. This one says, he says, even when you're going to sleep, there's a way to sleep, to fall asleep, such that if somebody else were to witness you sleeping, you would still be upholding a good influence on the Dharma. This one just seems really funny to me, right? We're in a culture where most of us have our own bed, right? Or maybe we share it with one other person day in and day out, but we don't live in a dormitory, right? But what if we did? You know, what if 30 other people see me sleeping everywhere I go? Then I guess it's useful to sleep in the position that Buddha put himself in as he went into his parinirvana. And again, I don't quite understand, but it's you lay down on your right side, you put your hand under your cheek, your underleg, your right leg is extended, your left one's bent, and you fall asleep like a Buddha. And anybody who sees you in that position is supposed to be inspired to the Dharma. Wouldn't that be easy if that's all we needed to do? Right. So you see the statues of the reclining Buddha, right? It's that. So then Geshe-la said, they don't tell you that when you're reclining like that with your head in your palm, it's like you've got your head in the Buddha's lap. You have your head in your heart teacher's lap. Like the little kid curled up, you know, in the parent's lap with that feeling of security and safety and being taken care of. And nobody's going to see that. But maybe the expression on your sleeping face will be, wow, they must know something I don't know. They look so peaceful. Maybe it's like that. And then he throws in, if you don't have a heart teacher yet, you imagine the most pure, loving being, and you see them there with you. And maybe it is Shakyamuni, or maybe it is Tara, or maybe it is Medicine Buddha, somebody that you've learned of, or maybe, you know, it's your Aunt Mary who passed away a long time ago. The idea is the safety, the comfort, the love that you're wrapped in as you fall asleep. Mm. And so as we're falling asleep, we're supposed to think, I'm going to rest this body. And when I wake up rested and ready to go, I'm going to do really great virtue tomorrow. So lastly, Geshe-la said, Our lamas are the representation of the pure beings. Don't hesitate to treat them that way. Not because they want it, not because they need it, but because we need it. We need the seeds. From seeing them that way, not seeing, physically seeing, believing them to be that for us, and then serving them, making offerings, helping them in what they do to help others. Any way we can, in order to plant those seeds, to see ourselves as the one who is the powerful karmic object for others. But do you see how that needs all this careful training? Because if we've got this ego festering inside there, and we meet these teachings that say, do all of this so that you can be seen as a Buddha, that ego is going to say, all right, I'm all over it, right? So that I can become like the best, most powerful, etc. And that kind of thing will be a bigger blocker to success, right, than any other misperception. And yet it's so easy to fool ourselves, thinking, oh no, I don't have that kind of thing inside me. But it's slippery, slippery, slippery slope to watch. So Geshe-la says, don't be shy about being a bodhisattva. Show by your behavior, not by your verbal declaration. No, we're not going to say, oh, I'm a bodhisattva, so I will do this. Really, sort of even to ourselves. We have our vows. We have our aspiration. Live according to it. Okay. Good for us. We finished that class. A few minutes to spare even. Yay. All right, so technically that completes our ACI course 10, which is a huger rejoiceable than even any other class. Right, we have the one more, the review class. Oh, look, that me is behind by a second. That's weird. Anyway, think of that person we wanted to be able to help. Think of what we've learned in this course, let alone all the rest. And think of what a great goodness you've created within yourself. Think of this goodness like a beautiful glowing gemstone you can hold in your hands. Recall your own precious holy being. See how happy they are with you. How pleased they are with you. Feel your gratitude to them, your reliance upon them. Ask them to please stay close, to continue to guide you, help you, inspire you. And then offer them this gemstone of goodness. See them accept it and bless it. And they carry it with them right back into your heart. See them there, feel them there. Their love, their compassion, their wisdom. It feels so good, we want to keep it forever. And so we know to share it by the power of the goodness that we've just done. May all beings complete the collection of merit and wisdom and thus gain the two ultimate bodies that merit and wisdom may. So use those 3 long exhales to share this goodness with that one person, to share it with everyone you love, to share it with every existing being everywhere. See them all filled with loving kindness, filled with wisdom. And may it be so. Yay. Thank you so very much. You will teach me on Sunday, my Sunday. That will be fun. We'll miss you, those who can't come. I'm stopping recording.